Hi there, I'm back with video number 2 for my Nashville releases. Like I said in the first video, I don't have any exclusives or limited edition type of things for Nashville. So if you don't get a pre-order in with your favorite shop, then there's still time to get it really at any time that you want. So let's get right to it. This little group is primarily berries, but there's a few little other things thrown in because it's hard for me to stop with just one. Let's start with chocolate or coffee. These are 2 pin pillows and 2 berries that you get in that chart pack. They are done, stitched in these yummy shades of brown. Actually 2 shades for a little bit of subtle tonal contrast, but you could stitch it in just 1 shade of brown if you like. I've got Time to Smell the Coffee and Time to Savor the Chocolate. For me, it's all about the chocolate since I'm not a coffee drinker. Now, you will see the pretty little border patterns, the motifs. These were all inspired by a couple of those little itty bitty antique pattern books from the latter part of the 1800s. And I have a few in my collection and I find them just incredibly inspiring, and I'm in awe that anybody could stitch from them because they're just teeny weeny little patterns. But they inspired this particular set of designs, and you'll see that for instance, this one, the chocolate and the berry, that bottom border makes a really pretty overall pattern for a berry. In the case of this berry, it's kind of a mashup of some of the larger floral motifs from those little books. And that monogram, that W, the alphabet, is also from one of those little books and is included in your pattern, so you can personalize this berry if you like. But the border patterns, the motifs, all are inspired by that and kind of translated into this chocolatey color palette for something a little fun. The finishing is all very straightforward. I've incorporated some wonderful dark brown vintage coat buttons in the finishing on these. Here are the berry tops. It's just a couple of layers of dark brown herringbone wool, some ribbon, and more of those coat buttons. And it's an interesting topper, but it doesn't take away from the berry design. So again, this is chocolate or coffee, and you get 2 berries and 2 pin pillows in that chart pack. Next up, I'm going to go to the English sampler berries. Let's see if I can hold these up so that I don't drop them for you. There's 3 berries. They were originally part of a club a few years ago that were released separately, and so now I'm releasing them as a trio in the single chart pack. And these are called English sampler berries because the motifs in each of these 3 berries are derived from an antique English sampler that I own. This is the Tudor Rose motif from that pattern, or from that sampler rather, and a few other elements directly from that sampler. This little woodland type of thing includes the trees and the squirrel and the little dog that were also part of one of the bands on that old sampler. And finally, it incorporated a band of honeysuckle motifs, a very traditional sampler pattern. And then this is the basket motif, one of the basket motifs that was found on that sampler. So they were all 3 inspired buy that sampler, and they're just nice classic motifs. Again, not seasonal. You could leave these out at any time in the year. Because they were a club series, the 3 of them are done on slightly different linens. That's not necessary. I think any of these neutrals would be lovely that you could just use on all 3, or you can choose something different for each one or the other as you like. The top treatments on these are all about the wool. There's a base cap, leaves, and then wool pennies or circles. This one has more of a irregular flower scallop shape, just layered on top for a very effective but simple top treatment. So these are the English sampler berries. Next up, I'm actually kind of going back a couple of years again. I have a retreat project that was released at that time. I was working with Beth at Heartstring Samplery, and we collaborated on a project for the retreat weekend. And one of my projects was a berry. And so I've taken that berry, which I have here, and I'm calling this chart pack the Sewing Bee for obvious reasons. So this was the berry that was part of the retreat project. And I've then taken those motifs and created a new pin pillow design. So you get that in this new chart pack. Incorporates that same bee, some of the other design elements that were used in the berry and elsewhere. And this chart pack comes with 2 hand-dyed buttons. There's this little heart and this pretty yellow button, and then this little pair of brass scissors. And I've attached that. This is kind of a geometric, almost honeycomb-like block, pattern block right down there in the corner, and the little scissor charm is attached right on top of that. I finished the back of this pin pillow with a pocket so I could put something in, scissors or something else if I liked. So these are the primary models in the new chart pack called the Sewing Bee. But what I've also included was the other retreat project. We did a little brief segment on about stitching on silk gauze. And so this little piece with the heart, checkerboard background, and the scissor was stitched on silk gauze and then mounted to a piece of wool, if you can see that there. And then that wool was glued to just a little wooden block with the hole drilled in the top to hold a pair of scissors. Now, obviously, I can't provide, not able to provide the block or anything like that anymore. I'm not packing silk gauze with my patterns, but this is a sweet little simple design that you might be able to really stitch on anything and finish as you like. Maybe it's a scissor fob or a smaller pin cushion, whatever you like, but it is included in the chart pack with the berry and the new pin pillow. So this is called the Sewing Bee. Then last but not least, I have a pattern I'm calling Stitch All the Things. Pin pillow and berry. When I first created this design late last year, I started using it as a hashtag. So if you follow me on Instagram, and I admittedly don't post there lots and lots, but when I do, I use the hashtag Stitch All the Things. And so this is this sweet pillow, and it's a little bit larger design because this particular model is stitched on 30 count linen. Just like anything else, you could stitch it on anything you like and finish it as you like. But it's got WIP for works in progress, stitch along, fully finished object. Just had some fun with this one. The berry says same thing. The SAL, FFO, and WIP are stitched over one on this one. If you're working on Ada, you may want to use a backstitched version of those letters instead, but everything else is just basic cross stitches. The other thing that you might think about doing, I used a really soft kind of muted color palette here, which I think is lovely, but if you want something that's got a little more pop to it, it would be easy to brighten up each of the colors in this. In terms of finishing, it's pretty straightforward, but I did use wool for a little extra trim on the pin pillow, as well as the top treatment on the berry, and of course that pretty vintage ruler twill tape. This chart pack also comes with buttons. There are 4 hand-dyed buttons here. 2 of them are this flower shape, and 2 of them are this more of a star shape. So they're included with your chart pack, but I happen to think that this is an ideal pattern if you have a collection of old vintage buttons, mother of pearl or some of the other creamy old white buttons. This is just a perfect place to use some of those so they're not just languishing in a jar or a bag or something like that where you're not maybe able to enjoy them. So that's the last of my Nashville pieces. So if you've watched both videos, you've seen that there's 7 new things. So please contact your shop. If you're in a huge hurry, they can add you to a pre-order. If not, they can order it from you anytime during market or after. I hope you love it all, and I wish you happy stitching. Thanks for watching. Bye.